What if I told you there's a country that's younger than TikTok, yet has faced more challenges than nations that have existed for centuries? Welcome back to Rukifelo, and today we're diving deep into South Sudan, a nation that's been called hell on earth by many, but whose story is far more complex than that harsh label suggests. South Sudan. You've probably heard the name, maybe seen it in headlines about conflict or famine. But do you really know what makes this country tick? Born in 2011, South Sudan is literally the world's youngest nation. Yet it's also consistently ranked as one of the poorest and most unstable countries on the planet. But here's the thing. Behind every statistic is a human story. Behind every headline is a nation of 11 million people trying to build something from scratch while facing unimaginable challenges. So buckle up, because today we're going to unpack the full story of South Sudan. And trust me, it's more complicated than you think. Picture this. It's July 9th, 2011. The world is watching as a new flag is raised for the very first time. South Sudan has just become the 193rd member of the United Nations, and the hope in the air is palpable. This wasn't just any independence. It was the culmination of decades of struggle, 2 brutal civil wars, and the longest-running conflict in Africa. For over 50 years, the people of South Sudan fought for this moment. They fought against marginalization, against cultural suppression, and against what they saw as systematic oppression from the government in Khartoum. The Second Sudanese Civil War alone lasted 22 years and claimed over 2 million lives. When 98.83% of South Sudanese voted for independence in 2011, it wasn't just a political decision. It was a declaration of survival. But here's where the story takes a tragic turn. Within just 2 years of independence, South Sudan found itself in the grip of its own civil war. President Salva Kiir accused his former deputy, Riek Machar, of attempting a coup. What followed was a conflict that would make the country's independence dreams seem like a distant memory. The numbers are staggering. Since 2013, nearly 400,000 people have died in this internal conflict. 4 million people, that's 1 in 3 South Sudanese, have been displaced from their homes. To put that in perspective, imagine if 100 million Americans suddenly had to flee their homes. That's the scale we're talking about. So why do people call South Sudan hell on earth? It's not just one thing. It's a perfect storm of interconnected crises that feed off each other like a vicious cycle. First, there's the ongoing violence. We're not just talking about battles between armies. We're talking about ethnic massacres, attacks on civilians, and the systematic use of rape as a weapon of war. The UN has documented horrific atrocities that would make your stomach turn. Then there's the economic collapse. South Sudan sits on some of the world's largest oil reserves. Yet 80% of its population lives on less than $1 a day. How is that possible? Well, oil infrastructure has been repeatedly targeted and destroyed. The government spends more on weapons than on healthcare and education combined. And corruption? It's so endemic that billions of dollars in oil revenue have simply vanished into thin air. The humanitarian crisis is equally devastating. Right now, 8.9 million people, nearly the entire population, need humanitarian assistance. That's not a typo. Almost everyone in the country needs help just to survive. Famine has been declared multiple times, and malnutrition rates are through the roof. But let's zoom out from statistics for a moment and talk about what this means for real people. Imagine being a mother trying to feed your children when there's no food in the markets. Imagine being a student who wants to learn, but your school has been turned into a military base. Imagine being a farmer who can't tend to your crops because armed groups control the roads. This is the daily reality for millions of South Sudanese. And yet, despite everything, they persevere. They adapt. They survive. That's not hell. That's human resilience in its purest form. Now, I know this all sounds incredibly bleak, and honestly, much of it is. But here's what mainstream media often misses. South Sudan isn't just a story of suffering. It's also a story of incredible strength and determination. There are peace agreements being signed, and, more importantly, sometimes honored. There are young entrepreneurs starting businesses against all odds. There are teachers still teaching in makeshift classrooms. There are doctors treating patients with limited supplies but unlimited dedication. The international community hasn't given up either. The UN has one of its largest peacekeeping missions in South Sudan. Countries around the world continue to provide humanitarian aid. And slowly, very slowly, there are signs of progress. So what does the future hold for South Sudan? Honestly, nobody knows for sure. The challenges are immense, and there are no easy solutions. But if there's one thing we can learn from South Sudan's story, it's that writing off an entire nation and its people is both wrong and dangerous. South Sudan needs time, it needs support, and most importantly, it needs the world to see its people as more than just statistics in a tragic news story. These are people with dreams, hopes, and an unbreakable spirit that has carried them through decades of hardship. South Sudan may be the world's youngest and poorest nation, but it's also a testament to human resilience. The label Hell on Earth might grab headlines, but it doesn't capture the full story. Yes, the challenges are real and devastating, but so is the strength of the South Sudanese people. What do you think? Should the international community do more to help South Sudan? Let me know in the comments below. And if this video opened your eyes to something new, hit that like button and subscribe to Rukifelo for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. Remember, every nation has a story worth telling, and every person has a story worth hearing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.